Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night Podcast, a podcast about board games. With me as always, I'm your host, Roy, and with me as always is Matt. And Rob.
Jazz hands.
Nice. So, for you people who are listening to the audio, Rob raised his hands in a jazz hands motion, if you didn't catch that.
Exactly how many times, though, did I flick my wrist? Did you catch all that? Did you see the rotation?
Literally, it was so amazing that I had to look away.
I get that a lot. I have great jazz hands.
That's
but
nice.
It's also because they're the size of, like, baseball gloves. So it's like, whoa.
Nice. So how you guys doing tonight?
Matt just died.
I can already tell you guys are going to make me laugh way too much, and I'm going to cough way too much, and it's going to be sad. So yeah, that's how I'm doing.
Fantastic.
I'm doing cough currently.
Nice.
How are you doing?
Pretty good.
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Doing well. For all those that are watching, I'm very conscious of this. This is called my nose. It's huge. So with my current mic setup, I feel like I can hear myself breathing when I listen to the podcast back, and it bothers me. So I'm not trying to put my microphone in my eye. I just don't want to hear myself breathing.
It looks kind of like a scouter, so you look like you're like Dragon Ball Z, like hardcore.
Or what about like Halo or something? Like
it's
I got
over 9,000, man.
Okay, but I will be getting a Blue Ball mic and headset thing, or Blue Icy or Snowball or whatever it is.
I'm just gonna let that opportunity pass by without much comment.
Exactly.
Oh, about the blue balls?
Yeah, man.
It's a blue is the brand, Snowball is
yes,
the microphone.
But mine will not be blue. I've already picked it out. It's black. I sent it to Matt. He was like, yeah, I would have bought that, but I got this other one for the same price. It's a lot better. And I was like, well, you're amazing.
You're the man.
I was gonna tell you to buy an Audio-Technica 2020, but
How much is that?
it's the same price as the one I have, like regular. It's like $160, but it doesn't come with a stand or anything, so it's just super like weird.
Is it like this? Like that?
Yeah.
Cool, guys.
Also, welcome to the Meta
Hey, Roy,
Podcast,
how
where
are
we
you?
don't talk about board games this week. And
Yes.
instead, we talk about behind-the-scenes stuff and just casual stuff.
yeah,
We are so prepared.
this is a podcast about board games, not about audio podcast microphones. In case you guys were wondering, but hey, sometimes we got to talk about
So
those things.
versatile.
The topic today is cooperative games, but first we're going to talk about what we've been playing. So who wants to tackle that first?
I see Matt does.
No, so last week we played XCOM over at
Who got
Louisville.
XCOM?
Ooh, I got XCOM.
Boy, got XCOM?
For my birthday, yes! Thank
That
you so
game
much,
is,
Rob.
That must be an amazing person that got you XCOM.
Probably so.
Man, I need to meet that guy.
Just look in the mirror, sir.
Boom.
So what
Right.
about XCOM, Matt?
It's a cooperative game. It was fun. I had a blast, actually. It's I don't know. I don't really want to talk too much about it because I feel you have a better grasp of it than I do. But it's just a really sweet 4-player game that is cooperative, but does an interesting thing with like time mechanics to where everything feels very rushed, and you're like, oh no, everything's gonna explode, and then it does or doesn't.
Yeah, it's
I
actually...
felt like I was there. That was
Yeah.
so... should narrate movies.
I'm here for the yes, not the.
It's actually pretty awesome because it's a game that utilizes an app. So a lot of people are kind of like not on board with the app thing, but I think it's really cool the way that they've integrated an app into the game, and that basically...
I think so too.
Basically, when we played the tutorial, and we basically learned how to play the game off of the app. I watched a few videos on like how the game works, but we just went step by step through the app until everybody understood what their roles were, and then it basically runs you through 2 turns of the game, and then it basically just unleashes you into the timed mode where you have to do everything yourself, and then it just tells you, hey, now do this, hey, now do this, hey, now do this. I was the I think it's like the commander or something like that has to go through and take care of all the app things and call out the different things like, oh, there's aliens coming in on this continent, or oh, hey, we have 30 credits. Okay, we have 30 credits for this round. Make sure you pull that many credits and have that. And okay, well, now you need to do the mission, so you need to pick 2 of those missions and pick which one. So I had to make sure everybody was staying on top of their stuff. But it's a cooperative game based on the XCOM board game. But you're all working together, and there's 4 different roles. You can play it with less than 4 players, but then someone's having to play multiple of the roles, which I'm pretty sure me and Matt were going crazy, like just taking care of our roles, and I'm sure the other guys were too. But like if you were having to do multiples of them, it would be pretty crazy, like trying to keep track of everything.
Yeah, there's just so much stuff. Like I had so much stuff that I needed to like tap to use, and then it's like I was playing like the accountant. I don't think that's the actual name, but I'll just pretend it's the accountant. And essentially the purpose of it was just like, hey, you get a certain amount of money at every turn, and you have to coordinate with all the other players to make sure that you don't go over budget for the turn. And it's rough because like everybody has their own different little thing they're doing, and they're like, hey man, can you spare 3 for a mission? And I'm like, I think so. And then somebody's like, hey man, 2 for satellites, 1 for this, 1 for that. I'm just like,
that's gotta be
okay.
like a very stressful position.
Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it definitely. Like there was one turn that there was like all this like I had some tech cards and some special like power cards that I had that I needed to use that would have like given us a bit of an edge and an advantage, and I just completely forgot to do that. And they all had to be used like during the timed phase, and I was just like, whoops.
Yeah. So your role was the commander, and mine is the central officer. Hector was the chief scientist, and AJ was the squad leader. So as the commander, I was in charge of like the satellites and the spaceships like out in space, trying to have satellites to destroy those and make sure that there's none out there because they can mess up our communications, which that's the cool thing about the apps is depending on where the different alien ships are, it can mess up the timing sequence of when things happen during the turn, and it'll change it. So things can be a lot more random and things can happen before you want them to, which can mess you up a lot. Then Hector had the role of like researching the technology, and his role was really cool because he was just researching technology and giving gifts out to everybody, and every single time we're like, this is amazing, thank you so much. Like it was great. But there was one point in the game where Hector was like, hey, out of these 2 technologies, which one do you think I should research? And I'm just like, I don't have time for that right now, man. Just because this game is like, he was asking me during the timed phase, and I'm like, I can't do this. I don't know, man. You're gonna have to figure it out. Just do the best one. And I a couple times, like during when Matt like forgot to play stuff, I was like, Matt, you didn't play that. I felt bad, but as the central officer, I felt it was important to make sure that we were doing what we needed to do.
Yeah.
Nice. And there was a time when like during the time phase, I could have like moved a ship into orbit and I could have blown it up easier. I'm just like, I forgot to do that. Like that was important. So like there's a lot of stuff where you get under pressure and under stress, and if an alien invasion was really happening, you'd probably be freaking out. So we were
so the game creates that sense of urgency and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool because it has like a whole timed phase where you basically make a whole bunch of decisions, and then after the time phase, there's sort of like a resolution phase where you basically resolve all the different things. And it's cool because it's not like some games have like a timed element and then the resolution element, you just see what happened. This one, there's a lot of things you can control during the resolution. Like I had a bunch of cards that could give other people rerolls, which was a lot of fun to like help people specifically out. Matt would have things that would allow the scientist to roll more dice. The scientist would have things where he could automatically trigger some things to help AJ out with some missions. I had things where I could help AJ out with missions. I had things where I could give Matt more money. So it's like every role had things that could help out the other roles, and that was one of the really awesome things about the cooperative part about it. Like I felt like I had a lot of things that I could help the other roles. So like
cool.
And it was my responsibility to remember them and help the other players to see those things. Like, hey man, don't forget we can do an auto success right here if I just exhaust this card, and we need to make sure we're doing that every single turn. And AJ's like, okay, well if I put 2 guys on this during the time phase, I can get rid of one of the crises that Matt has to choose. So there's like lots of interweaving of all the different roles together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very well balanced in that regard. Like I didn't find that like any one role was like less engaged or fun. You know, because sometimes when you get into cooperative games, there's like the one person or like whenever we play One Night Ultimate Werewolf, like when you hand out all the stuff and like you're either like a villager or a tanner, you're just like,
Yeah.
not this again. But it's like I didn't feel like anybody had like that particular balance issue with XCOM. So it's just like everybody had their role, and it's like if one person didn't perform, it could have messed us all up. So it's like it wasn't a success on like the backs of two people carrying everybody. It was like more like, hey, everybody push this big rock out of the way, and we did it. And it's like, yay.
So real quick, my wife just texted me and told me to sit back because my face looks huge on the camera.
Perfect.
Honey, I'm glad you're watching. You know, I appreciate it.
Looking out for
Hey,
us.
just looking out for your forehead.
Right? And my cyborg guy that I got going on right now.
She's
I love it.
managing your digital image. You should hire her.
Bro,
as a
she
consultant.
manages every aspect of my life. Those
Welcome
blue
to
balls we were
marriage.
talking about earlier,
Boy. Here we go.
Okay.
happily married. Actually, this week I celebrate 10 years.
Congratulations.
Awesome. But that was basically XCOM. I really enjoyed it. Thanks a ton for that, Rob.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to see my super large, expensive gift. No, but I am excited to see my gift that I get from you this year. I'm going to send you a list like you send me. I'm just like, look.
I thought my gift was gonna be letting you play XCOM with me. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'll
Just
probably
kidding.
end up buying my own copy, though.
It's pretty fun.
Just because.
Leaving it in the
So
saran wrap.
this week I actually haven't been able to play board games. It's been a little crazy. Had some couple family tragedies go on this week, and what was supposed to be a fun weekend did not turn into that. So, and I'm also still moving and still painting and doing all that. But I did break out the Xbox One this weekend, and I did Halo. The Master Chief Collection is always fun, going back through Halo 1. And then I did pick up Witcher 3,
Oh snap!
which I don't know how
Smiley
much
fist.
of the game, like the game itself is fantastic. It's huge. The graphics are amazing with the Xbox One and everything. It's a lot. However, there's a lot of cutscenes I found myself skipping through. It is rated M for a reason, and I'll leave it at that. So yeah, I hit the X button a lot, but killing werewolves and fighting off big griffin things and having my alone time. My alone time. I've been doing that, but fun game, but no board games, and hopefully that will change this week. I want to challenge Roy to Summoner Wars or Battle of the Ring.
War of the Ring.
War of the Ring. Man, Battle of Five Armies. I've got them all. But anyway,
Awesome.
we need to play it.
Yeah, man. That would definitely be amazing. But yeah, the only other game we really played on Friday was we played some Sushi Go, which is like
Oh yeah.
it's like a simple little drafting game. It's basically the simplest drafting game I know of. But basically,
Is it fun?
it is
Yeah.
actually really awesome. Basically, you have a hand of, like, everybody gets a hand of cards, and the way drafting works is you basically pick one card out of the little pack that you have. Like, say we had 6 cards, we pick one out and keep it, and that would be the card, and you pass all the rest of the cards to the player to your left, and then you get a hand of 5 cards, and you pick one out of that, and you pass it, and then you get a hand of 4 cards. So you basically just keep picking one card out, and the different cards can score different amounts of points. And basically, a lot of the cards have to like combo together. Like temporas, you need multiple to get that going. And with like some of them just score by themselves. Some of them are like cards where you can put them back up in your hand and play multiples down. It's basically just a race to get points, and then also cut other people off so that way they can't get as much points. I like it a lot just as a simple, light filler game, and a game that you can really play with pretty much anybody. I've played it like with my mom and dad and with my in-laws and stuff like that. So it's a good like family style game that's not too heavy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got it. It's just I haven't. It's one of my other games I own, but I haven't played. So
What did you think, Matt?
It was pretty good. Like I said, it's really simple, but I mean, it's not like that's a bad thing. Like it plays really well. And I think the thing I liked about it was like you were explaining the rules, but I didn't understand like how the game went. And then when we started playing, it was like, oh, okay, cool. And the first round's over, and you win. And I'm like, oh, that was super fast. And then we just did it like 2 or 3 more times, and it was like, yeah, this is pretty neat, pretty straightforward, you know.
Yeah, it's one of those games that like you can teach someone how to play in like a couple minutes, and then you're just playing, and then after that you can bust out a whole game in like 5 minutes, and then you can play again. So it's really great for like a very short filler. And anybody who's used to like Seven Wonders or Among the Stars or even Magic Drafts will understand what drafting is and kind of how it works. This is just like a extremely simple version of that sort of thing where it's just straight about points. All right.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. So I guess if we want to, we can go ahead and get into our topic. Tonight we're going to be talking about cooperative games. So I guess we'll start off with what is a cooperative game? So a cooperative game is basically a game where instead of working against each other like so many games are, you're actually working together. So you're normally going for like a common goal to achieve a certain number of points or achieve a certain thing, and cooperative games come in all shapes and sizes and all sorts of different themes, anywhere from Pandemic, where you're working to save the world from viruses, to Flashpoint Fire Rescue, where you're firemen, to Hanabi, where you're trying to make a fireworks display. So there's all sorts of different styles. Is there anything else we can add to what a cooperative game is?
Just, I think you hit the nail on the head. Players share a common goal to victory, whether it's every player or a group of players. So
yeah, it's pretty interesting. A lot of the games have like a thing where like at the end of each player's turn or at the beginning of each player's turn something bad will happen, and then like the players have to try to resolve that, and then like each time just more bad stuff is happening, and then you're trying to fix the bad stuff that's happening. Like in Pandemic, more virus cubes will come out and you got to try to run around and fix those. Or in Flashpoint, more fire will come out. Or in Arkham Horror, more gates are opening up. Or in Eldritch Horror, more events are happening and things like that.
great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I guess I've talked about what some of the most popular cooperative games are.
I've got a couple.
Awesome.
So one that's like super hot right now, and I would consider it a co-op, but it's also not a co-op. I would say is Dead of Winter, because you do have to work together, and there is an objective for everyone to meet. But at the same time, you still have your own objective that you have to do. Castle Panic is also a great introductory co-op game to get people working together. Mansions of Madness, which I'll talk about more later on in the podcast, is a fantastic co-op. But that's also one of those co-ops where everybody is working together against one main bad guy. So it's one guy versus a group. And so for that group, it is a co-op. Level 7 Omega Protocol, that's a lot of fun. But that's also the same as Mansions of Madness, where it's one guy controls the aliens and the other guys are the Marines, and they have to work together. Would you say Shadows over Camelot is a co-op game? I mean,
a lot of those games.
Dead of Winter is.
Well, I mean, there's a different category. They're like co-op with a traitor. So I would say even Battlestar Galactica is the same sort of thing. If you take the player count in all of those games down to a smaller level, there's no actual traitor in it. Like I know if you play 2-player or 3-player Dead of Winter,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's no Betrayer. If you play 3-player Battlestar Galactica, there's no Cylon, which just seems like why would you do that? And the same thing with Shadows over Camelot. If you play with like a low player count, you don't play with a Betrayer. You just strictly play against the game, and so that way you're just fighting against the things that are coming up. But yeah, they're sort of like their own category, like a cooperative with a Betrayer game.
Zombicide is also another fun co-op game. I know in the new season of Zombicide, they finally added a player versus player option that you can add. But the campaign is, if you watch The Walking Dead, it's pretty much like The Walking Dead. Like the first season, you're in a city. The second season, you're in like this mall and prison area. And the third season, you're now in neighborhoods. But everyone has to work together. You have to obtain your objectives, and like everyone has to survive or you don't win. And so have you ever played that, Roy? Zombicide?
I've never played Zombicide before, but I've seen it played a lot.
It's a lot of fun. I've got a lot of Zombicide. I have a
Awesome.
lot of Zombicide.
Another really good family cooperative game that's very like story driven is Mice and Mystics. It's really good for like I feel like it'll be great. I can't wait till my son gets the age to where he can play Mice and Mystics, and you can basically it's like little mice going around doing a dungeon crawl, but it's like a lot of stories. So like you have like these paragraphs that you have to read, and it basically like you're playing through this story and taking the little actions and stuff like that. The designer actually created it in an attempt to get his daughter more excited about reading. So Jerry Hawthorne is the designer, so it's really awesome, that game. I played it with a friend before, but like when my dad was here, me and my dad actually broke out Mice and Mystics and played a couple of the chapters, so it was actually really awesome.
Aw.
Nice.
So that's what that game's all about, is family.
Did it
How
get
about
you
you, Matt?
pumped for reading?
I was so stoked about reading. I made my dad read the whole thing, so he got to read me a bedtime story. It was great.
Nice. Good times.
So, are there any other cooperative games?
None. I mean, yeah, there's tons of them. I mean, we could list
Go on
would
for
be a lot.
days.
Yeah, but I think we mentioned a good variety and a good plethora and different types of co-op games. So
And by a good variety and good plethora, you mean you've listed every game that I know. So everything beyond that is like games that you guys
you
know
like
and
sci-fi
not.
stuff, Matt? I would
Yeah.
really like to do, and with you also, Roy, Level 7 Omega Protocol. If we could do the campaign, it's 10 missions. Each mission takes a while. But if you've ever been a fan of like the Alien movies,
Uh-huh.
it's like Alien 2 with the Marines.
Mhm.
It's like Alien 2, the movie, as a board game. It is really cool. And you can deck out your Marines so they, like, you don't just go in there with a little pea shooter. You go in there with, like, big bazookas and everything. But the more, like, each campaign gets harder. So, like, the first campaign, you're going to win. The second campaign, you're going to win. The third and fourth, once you get, like, midway, it starts to get scary too, because there's vents that can pop up and aliens can come out of vents. So you're walking, next thing you know, they're coming out from underneath your feet, and there's huge aliens. It's a lot of fun.
Does it
Lot of fun.
have like you keep some of the stuff from the previous campaigns and stuff like that? Sort of
You
like
can.
sort of like you would in Descent or in Pathfinder, the adventure card game.
You know
sort of thing.
you know who did that, and they did a really good job of that. The new Star Wars Imperial Assault game, which I also have, and we need to play. The campaign, your player levels up. So when you're the good guys, like let's say you're Chewie, after each campaign you level up. And if you died, you can't play with him if you're going to, stick with it. Like he's gone. You have to pick somebody else and like start over. So that's really cool, where Star Wars Imperial Assault really did the leveling up campaign. Like, okay, I'm better at 3 than I was at 1. Level 7 doesn't do that. You pick up your new, you can change your layout in between each mission, which I don't think you can do that with Imperial Assault.
All of those games that are like one versus many just always like make me think of like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that, because I played a lot of D&D, and I know you don't have as much experience with it, Rob, but like it always feels like, oh, the one player's like setting up the mission and everything like that, and then all the other players are coming in to like play it. So it's like D&D for people who don't have time to play D&D and have a consistent campaign going. You can just bring it out whenever and play it. So.
See,
Or
those are actually
D&D for people who have like social stigma fears of D&D, where they're just like, oh, that's the nerds game. Not that.
Well, I mean, in the board game world, like a lot of these guys play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons or come from Dungeons and Dragons, but they're like me, like it's hard to have every single week to do specific things, or especially like with a campaign. Like I have game night, but there's completely different people that show up at every game night.
That group would be very different if you were doing a D&D game night than you.
Right, because like with a Dungeons and Dragons, you need to have the exact same people. You can't add more in and take more out as easily as you can with any board games. And I feel like even with like the Descent and things like that, and Imperial Assault and Omega Protocol, all that stuff you can just throw out on the table, and whoever's here, they can join in. And if you can't be here, that's fine. We'll just play a scenario without you. So where in D&D, if that happens a couple times and it's too fluctuating, your group is done for. So me and AJ always talk about how in Dungeons & Dragons, if you miss one night, that's fine. But if you miss 2 nights of Dungeons & Dragons, then your group's over. So... But yeah,
so
I have so many more like cooperative games here too. Like cooperative games, like I really like I like the pure co-op where you're all working together for a common goal. Like you can sit down and we're not going at each other's throat. We're actually like, unless we're saying, hey, you're not pulling your weight. But other than that, we're like trying to all work together to do different things. Like it's pretty awesome.
They're also some of the best ways to introduce people into heavy gaming. You know, because there are some heavy co-op games, and so that person that wants to play board games but hasn't committed yet, doing a co-op game is also a great way of introducing them into that things, because then they don't feel like they're being beat up or picked on or anything like that. It's like, we're working together. Look how cool this is. See how the mechanics. I like using co-ops as another way to introduce people into some of the deeper, darker sides of board gaming.
Yeah, because like if they have any questions, you don't have to like hold anything back because they might beat me. No, we're actually all working together. Here's the idea of what we're trying to do. Here's a couple little tips, and let's go over here and do this and do that. I've seen a lot of people that you wouldn't even think would play Arkham Horror, but are like all about playing the different investigators and things like that, and banishing the old ones. And Arkham Horror is not a light game at all. Especially when you start adding expansions in, there's just piles. But yeah, I guess so what is your favorite cooperative game?
Matthew.
You get the first pick.
I mean, see, that's really tough.
I about to say, like, I know you haven't played nearly as many as we have.
Are we including co-op games that have a trader mechanic?
So as far as what I was thinking, I mean, I would say go ahead and throw one of each out there, because they're really different animals. Because if you're talking purely co-op, it's quite different, but they still definitely have co-op elements. Yeah.
So if we're doing co-op with trader, I'm probably gonna be Dead of Winter.
Right.
Just just the story mechanics in that game are just like And then honestly, XCOM has impressed me just in that one play, like more so than a lot of the other co-op games we've played, simply because of just the way it does things and the finesse in which it does them. Like, it's an odd way to phrase it, but I'm not quite sure how to explain it. Like,
I'm really excited to play it more.
Yeah, and like the thing is, I remember we were talking about like barriers to entry in board games like a couple of podcasts ago, and one of the things that was brought up was, you know, board games don't have tutorials like video games. Like, it's not like, hey, do this, go there, do that. Okay, now you know how to play, you're in the game. But that was exactly what XCOM did. It was just like, hey, this is how you play the game, la 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 la, and go. And you're just like, all right, time to panic. And
Yeah.
it was like, it was just so well done, and it was just like,
Is
yeah.
that something that you want to see more, Matt? I know that they've talked about that a lot with different designers, integrating apps more into games, because then you get the issue of, all right, how long is the server going to be maintained? You know, a board game with just pieces and a rule book can last forever, but is that app going to last forever? But
Yeah, I mean, I can understand both the pros and the cons of having an app, but
yeah,
for me, as someone who comes from a very heavy video game background and
Yeah.
not so much of a board game background,
and also new into board gaming too.
yeah, I would much rather have an app explain to me and teach me how to play the game as I'm playing it than to like watch somebody do like a YouTube tutorial of it or read the rule book a couple of times,
Yeah.
because it's a whole different beast once you sit down and start playing the game. And if there's an app there that's like just like holding your hand and guiding you through like the first couple of rounds or even the first game or something, if the game doesn't take that long, you're just like, okay, I'm pretty sure I got this. And it's like, yeah, like it just, I don't know, it flows very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another cool thing about it is like with the apps, if they want to, they can like do patches and things like that to adjust some things, which you can't really. I mean, they can't patch the specific cards, but they can fix like how the timing and stuff works like that
Yep.
within the game.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Cool. So for my favorite cooperative game, currently I'd have to say it's Eldritch Horror, which is basically the sister game to Arkham Horror. One of the first cooperative games that like I really liked was playing Arkham Horror with like my friend Dustin, and he had like tons of the expansions and stuff like that. But we played the game, and then a few of my other friends, Guy and them, like had the game, and we played a whole bunch of Arkham Horror. And then Eldritch Horror came out, and where Arkham is like the city of Arkham, Eldritch Horror like covers the entire world, and you're trying to fight off these great old ones, which are like these elder beasts from the Lovecraft mythos that are slumbering under the sea or like terrorizing different things or coming through rifts and stuff, and you're trying to seal them away to
I got scared.
exactly, man. But yeah, and before I played Arkham Horror, I had never heard of Lovecraft, and then I ended up listening to some of the audiobooks and different things like that, and it's actually pretty interesting stuff. And I like how a lot of it's like open-ended and creepy in the end. The game doesn't play like his books really does, because the game is more like almost like you're Indiana Jones going and getting artifacts and slaying monsters, which is most of his books didn't end very well for the actual people in the books. But it still gives you a good feel of hopelessness at certain times when the game smashes you down and you're going insane and your legs get broken and you have a debt to the mob and it all comes due and you're just wrecked. But the cool thing about it is when your character dies, you can go visit your character and maybe get some information from them while they're insane. So, have either of you guys played that game?
I have it.
Yes.
I don't think you
I
played
think
it,
we
Matt.
played it once. No?
We played Elder Sign, which is like the mini dice version. But
Okay.
Eldritch Horror is a lot more expansive than that and a lot more story-driven. There's a lot more like
Okay.
cards where you read things. I think you'd really like it a whole lot.
I was going to say, I just remember we were playing Elder Sign. It was just like, it started to drag on a little bit, and there were two people who were just like, I'm just going to look at my phone and make jokes and show people cute pictures of puppies and stuff, and I'm just like, guys, we're about to get murdered. If you could just focus for a second.
What I learned from that game is don't play 8-player Elder Sign.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I will say my favorite co-ops. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. My favorite
Anytime.
co-op. Trader mechanism, definitely it has to be Dead of Winter. Just amazing. You have to work with everybody, but then at the same time you don't work with everybody because you have your own private objective as well. And I am 100% on the zombie bandwagon ever since season 1 of not Dead of Winter. Ever since season 1 of The Walking Dead, I've been on it, and I think this is one of the great zombie games that it's not too much for me because it's not really about zombies. I mean, Dead of Winter, they're an issue, but the game is not really about zombies. It's about so many other things, and so I love that one. My favorite co-op where it's one versus everybody, which that's actually probably my favorite type of co-op to play, is Mansions of Madness. I, which is also in the Arkham Horror and Eldritch Horror universe and stuff like that. I remember the very first time I played Mansions of Madness, and it blew me away because I went to this one store. Long story short, went to this comic book store. They were saying, "Hey, we're going to start doing board game nights on Thursday nights." So sweet. I didn't have my baby at the time. I went to the store. Guy pulls out Mansions of Madness. He's like, "Have you ever played this?" I said, "Absolutely not. But that's a big worm, so I want to play that game." And so we sat down, and we got out our characters. And I never played before, so I was one of the investigators. And there's all of a sudden like zombies that were popping up from the ground, and cult leaders and all this stuff. And there was this huge like worm blob character, and for us to win, we had to kill it before it escaped the mansion. And we, like, two of our people went insane. I had the shotgun. Another guy had a machine gun. We were laying everything into it. And, like, on the final turn, we killed it. And ever since then, I was hooked. Like, this is so cool because we had no idea what he was doing. And he knew what we were doing because we were table talking. Oh, you need to go do this and you need to jump this and I'll help you with this. But it was just so much fun working together because if that thing got out, we all lost. It was that's what got me hooked onto co-op games. I'd say that and Battlestar Galactica, which I've talked about in the past. But Mansions of Madness, I now own all of the big expansions and I own several of the small expansions, and I've played them all, and they're all amazing. In fact, that was the very first ever Epic Gaming night I ever went to of Roy's, was a Mansions of Madness, because he posted it online, and I was like, I will be there. All the other ones, hey, we're playing this. Nah. As soon as he said Mansions of Madness, I don't care what's going on. I will be there. My clients can wait. On the way.
That's awesome.
And so, love it. Love it. That's my and then my other one is another zombie one, go figure, but it's straight co-op, and that's Zombie Side. It's a lot of fun. It's goofy. The artwork is cool. So many zombies. I think at one time the most we ever had on the board was 222 plastic figurines, because I have a total of 225, and there was only 3 left in the box.
That's
that
insane.
many zombie figurines were on the board. It was so much fun. It was crazy. We did not win. But that's a great, and that's just a straight co-op where everyone works together. There's no traitor. There's no one versus everybody. And there's modes where you can do that, but in this mode, we were just doing everyone has one objective, and
survive.
Really cool. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome, guys. Well, I guess you guys, or you started us off. Oh, here we go. Is there a co-op game that you've never beat? Basically, where you're playing specifically against the game, and you just lose every single time you play it.
Thus far, Dead of Winter.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
The only one, can I say I've only beat it one time?
I guess so.
Pandemic.
Oh wow!
That game kicked our butts. I've only played it like 6 or 7 times, but I've only won once. And the one time we won, we actually put thought into who we were going to choose for our characters rather than the artwork, and I think that made a difference. But the very first several times we played, we're like, oh, this person looks cool. Oh, they have a cool ability, but our teams didn't mesh well, and we all got like AIDS or something. But that's a tough game. It's a fun game, but that's a very tough game, especially for new people. If you don't know what you're doing, just play to have fun. Don't play to win. If you don't know what you're doing.
I like Pandemic a lot. It's pretty interesting. It's very puzzly, so it's very much like you have to figure out how things go. And if you have a player that's just a lot better at the game, they could end up like running the whole thing for you guys. It's like, oh, you go here, you do this, you do that. So you have to beware of the alpha player thing. My thing is, I like to like try to figure out. I normally take too much risk in the game, so we always just end up losing if I'm the one telling people what to do. Because I'm like, no guys, those cubes will be fine. We don't need to worry about that. We need to cure this over here. And then it's like outbreak. You lose the game, and I'm like, I guess we shouldn't have taken that risk.
You're like, yeah, SARS is kind of a big deal, but if we go over here and eradicate polio,
that's exactly the way it works. That's exactly what happens in my games.
And it's how it happens too. It's just like you don't mess with the one and it ends up killing you. So, is there any co-op games that you have not beaten, Roy?
So basically, I have Ghost Stories, and I've played it probably like 5 or 6 times, and we've just been massacred every single time. It's like a lot of people talk about how hard that game is, and like trying to figure out how to figure out how to win. And they say if you play it with a designer, he can like win the game every time, and he can show you how to do it. But it's beyond us, to the point where like if someone's like, "Hey, want to play Ghost Stories?" and literally the game scares me now. I'm like,
"Do you just get depressed?" Like, no.
Honestly, that's what I do. Like they're like, I'll just say we lost. We can say we played it, and then we just lost, because that's what's going to happen. So I can't figure out. I mean, there's got to be people out there that are just like, yes, I win Ghost Stories like all the time, and you're like, man, you're like amazing. But Ghost Stories is known for being ridiculously hard.
You're making me want to play this game. Like it sounds.
I know. I want to play it now.
It sounds like one of those things where it's like, and now it's a challenge.
Well, you guys might need to come over and show me like how to do something. Maybe you guys have some ideas that I don't that might be able to win us a game.
I'll just bring like a binder of like printed out PDFs. And it's like, so these people on the internet said
exactly like let's read it. Let's read a strategy guide. Basically, it's like very tower defense, and there's ghosts coming in from all sides, and you're like these little monks running around and doing different abilities, but you're having to fight off the ghosts, and it always just feels like I attack the ghost and didn't kill him, and now the ghost kills me. It's all good. And I lose the game. That place is corrupted, that place is corrupted, that place is corrupted, and we lose. Good times.
Perfect.
You let everybody down.
Hey, maybe the thing is, if you play with the designer's like, so guys, the ultimate goal of the game is just to succumb to evil. And, and so when you lose, you win. But don't tell anybody. That's our secret.
Or it would be cool if you did play with the designer of the game, and he's like, I don't like that. Let me write this new card real quick, and now you can do this, and I just won.
When we play, we take these cards out of the deck because they're OP. Those ghosts are OP.
Oh man, that home rule.
Good stuff.
So, how can cooperative games help introduce people to gaming?
I think I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. They are a great way. Co-op games are a great way of showing people the different types of games, but not being intimidating. And I know I said that earlier, but for example, if I were to just pull out Dead of Winter to somebody and they start to see all the components and see all the stacks of cards that go on with the game, it's a lot, especially for somebody who's not a board gamer. But once you start to explain, hey, we're in this together, we're doing this together, I'm here to help you, and then once they start to see, because one thing I noticed with co-ops is they all have great storylines. I mean, the majority of them. The stories are really cool. They're really in-depth. So I think that also kind of helps sell the game. And so when you do pull out those cards and you do start reading, this is why this happened, and this, you, in a way, and not to be too, goofy or cheesy, but you go on a little journey together, and it's a lot of fun. And, you don't feel bad if you lost because everyone lost. Right. And it's just, like I said earlier, it's probably one of my favorite ways to introduce people into bigger, heavier games, because then, you can say, well, if you like this, then you would have liked that. But I just think co-ops, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I don't feel like I'm repeating myself. But anyway, they're fantastic, and I'll let somebody else say something, and I'm going to catch my thoughts real quick.
Nice. Yeah, I think they're really good for, like you said, being able to ease someone in to the games.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big parts about it is like you're not trying to crush each other in the game. Like I'm not trying to, oh man, I beat you and got way more points than you. I know you're new to gaming, and we can play this game together, and we can work for a common goal, and I can guide you. We can work along as we go. Like with Flashpoint Fire Rescue is a very simple game where you're just fighting against fires and you're moving your little guy around to try to pull people out of the building, and all the roles like work together to do different things. Everybody's very different, but then you have to figure out how to utilize those powers together as a team, and the teamwork is the awesome thing. Like in a lot of other games, it's whoever has the most points, and new players who are new to gaming or might not be that competitive could get smashed pretty bad and something like that, and just be like, well, I don't really want to play games like that anymore because I didn't have much of a chance, or I just got wrecked. But like with a cooperative game, if you all get wrecked, you don't really feel bad. I mean, you're like, man, we gotta try harder next time. Like it actually, if you lose, it almost makes you like more pumped to try it, unless it beats you every single time.
Yes. Well, it's a lot like video games in that aspect. You know, you play a first-person shooter and you jump online. If you get wrecked every single time you jump online, you're probably not going to play online long, unless you're playing just like goofing around with friends. But you're not gonna play online because you're just getting beat down. It's the same thing with co-op games. It eliminates that beatdown where Roy already knows all the answers. Roy knows how to win. He created ghost stories. He knows what he's doing. But he's not going to give you that information because you're the enemy. Where when you play a co-op game, Roy knows the answers. Roy created the game, so he'll be able to tell you how to win. Like he'll be able to help you. And that's just eliminating that tension between players as like, you know, foe v foe, where we're more teammates. That makes it a lot more comfortable for people. What I do? I have some on my nose.
No, you said faux v faux, and for some odd reason, I thought you were like gangsta slanging it.
Oh, bro!
For like, I was just like that
board game gangster for life.
That was it, man. Yeah.
BGG, board game gangster. Hey, that's gonna go viral right now. BGG #BGG, board game gangster, right there.
So as a new person or a new player to board games, what are your thoughts of cooperative games, Matt?
I enjoy them. I mean,
very insightful.
I mean, my favorite type of game is probably the co-op game with a traitor. Like, just because it's like, hey, everybody's competing for the greater good, except for this one guy. Boy, sure does he suck. But like, even like Dead of Winter, like the one time we played, I was the traitor, but I never had an opportunity to do any traitoring because the game is just that hard. And so, I mean, essentially in that regard, I played it as a co-op game, and it's like, I don't know, like it fosters friendships, and it helps you. I don't know, like this is probably not the question to ask me, but I mean, if I would have come in and only played a couple of games with you, like maybe 3 weeks into doing all this stuff, and then you were like, hey man, so do you want to play some Twilight Imperium? It's like 8 hours long and just a ton of all this stuff. And I would have probably been like, no thank you, that sounds insane. I don't quite know or understand why you would want to do that. But, you know, then it's like you start playing some Battlestar Galactica, play a Dead of Winter, play something that, you know, you don't realize lasts maybe 3 hours, but it does. And you have a ton of fun playing it. And you're like, hey, it's kind of like that in that it's a long time and there's a bunch of stuff that you need to do and be kind of consciously aware of. So, I mean, it's a good gateway in that regard that you don't have to worry about, like... Because you're a really good GM in the sense that whenever we come over, you're not going to like pick a game and be like, okay, so this game, I'm just going to destroy everybody. Because I know...
I try not to be that way.
Yeah. Because it's like, you know, you could easily be like, yes, I have all the knowledge, and therefore I'm just going to win. Because I know what you can do, and I know what I can do, and I know that what I can do is win, and what you can do is sit there going, I don't know what I'm doing. And co-op games are very different in that, like, if you have the knowledge, you can just like share it and impart it and be like, "Hey, friend, so I don't know if you're aware, but if you have this one card, that'll give somebody else a free action, and then we can do this, and then that'll be cool, and then everybody won't die, which is pretty sweet."
That's a pause. Everybody won't die
Yeah.
this turn. If we can last one more turn without dying, we might be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also like the feeling of dread a lot of co-op games give you. Like, a lot of them have you right on the edge of, like, losing.
Yes.
And you're right there, and you're, like, very afraid that, like, oh my gosh, we just gotta last one more turn. We gotta put one more token on this thing to be able to win. And then sometimes you play, and it's just like you get there, and it happens. And sometimes you play, and you fail miserably, and it's like things just pile up like bad thing, bad thing, bad thing. And you're like, well, we tried, but then we all got destroyed.
Well, I think that's the other thing too. Like you're saying, that like sense of dread and like hopelessness is like, it's done really well, because like you might feel hopeless, like as an independent person. You'd be like, guys, this is over, and then somebody's like, no, I have this card, and everybody's like,
What? You're the hero of the day.
whereas like if you happen to be playing like a competitive game and you have that like sense of dread, you're like, guys, we're never gonna be able to beat Roy. Like nobody can be like, oh, but I have this card that just removes Roy from the building, and then we can just play without him. And then that
His
becomes
wife has that
better.
card. She doesn't play.
And it's just like, I don't know. Like you can get mad at the game, but it's not that big a deal. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, well, I guess if we're done talking about co-op games, I can go on to our question of the week from one of our users, or one of our listeners. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at epicgamingnight@gmail.com, or just hit us up on Instagram or Twitter, and we'll try to make sure to answer those on the show. So this week, Duke Fritz on Instagram asked, is your favorite game also the game that you play the most?
Ooh. That's a good question.
For me, it's not at all the game that I play the most. Seeing that my favorite game is Twilight Imperium 3, and honestly, the last couple years I've only played Twilight Imperium 3 like once a year, and it's a big event. And I guess if you count hours played, that might be a little bit different. But I normally only play it like once a year. But those memories last for a long time. If you want to check out more about us talking about Twilight Imperium 3, you can check out our 4X podcast where we go on and on. But probably the game that I've played the most are like the simple short games like Love Letter and stuff like that. I've played Love Letter I don't even know how many times. I wouldn't consider it my favorite game, but it's probably one of my favorite small games.
You want to go, or you want me to go?
I'll yes and no. To answer that question, I do try to play my favorite games the most. It's just right now there's a lot of games that I like, so it's hard to say which one is my absolute favorite. Which I've got one in my head that I would probably like, Desert Island kind of a thing, if I had to take one with me. I've played it the most. But I'm also like Roy, where I also play with a lot of new people. Like I play with a lot of people from my church, and so I try to introduce new people into gaming constantly to make it grow. And so, yes, the games I love, I do play a lot. And no.
Yeah, a lot of the times I feel like the games that are really my favorite, like the Rexes and the Twilight Imperiums and like all these heavy, crazy things, and like Eclipse and stuff like that I'd like to play a lot more. They're just so heavy that you can't like just constantly play that stuff all the time. Like you need a break. You need a break. You need to like save them for special occasions, and that might be why they're my favorite games. Is because like I make an event out of when we play these games.
Well, and also if you're really going to enjoy those games, like we had a blast when we played TI3. We really did. We had a good time, but there's probably a lot more we could have done with the game had more of us been experienced players.
Right.
You know, but we were limited on what you can do, and in games like that, it's hard to get experienced players together for that amount of time, and so that also does limit that as well. Because it's like you said earlier, it's an event. I mean, even Eclipse is like a 4+ hour game.
Yep.
It's not just a small little game. You can set a timeline for it, but these are not small things that are just going to be done. And it's better. The game is better when you can really appreciate all the moves and all the turns and all the potential choices of the game, rather than just introducing it to new people. And so, that's a tough question. That's a great question, but man, I'm just like,
So as far as like the games you've played so far, Matt, which one would you actually consider as your favorite game? I know there's still a lot. Like, I have tons of games on my shelf that you haven't played yet, but like currently, if you had to pick one.
God, I hate this question so much.
You're like, I like them all, as long as they have a hidden traitor.
Yeah, exactly. No, like, I mean, can I give you a list of 5? Is that okay?
One day we'll have to go through and talk about like our top 5 and like give everybody a description of each one of those.
Could you do that though, real quick, Roy? Could you give a top 5?
Yeah, like I normally like keep like a list. Like I have like my top 10. I don't know, like the order might fluctuate around a little bit, but like I have specific games that I really like a lot. So I'm like, these are the games. These are the games that I'm striving to get people to play these games with me.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. So your top 5.
You want to do top 5 or just one?
Whatever you need.
Or we could just say, hey, I don't play my favorite game all the time.
I mean, see, that's what I was gonna say until you asked which one in particular. Like, because it's like my favorite game might fluctuate on a week-to-week basis, and then it's like right now, XCOM, really good game, really fun game. Would love to play it again.
Matt's favorite
want to play it.
Matt's favorite game is the last game that he played.
Yeah.
So that means that Zitter Nix or whatever, the one with the little things, is your current favorite game.
Pickup Sticks. Pickup Sticks was fun though, actually. Funner than I thought it would be for a German game about wood, but.
Since Rob's confused, on Friday we played a German Haba game. I can't even pronounce the name.
Your wife bought it for $1.
Yeah. I can't even pronounce the name of this. How do you say that? Pickup Sticks. Anyway, you have these wooden sticks that are like in a ring, and you roll a dice to figure out which color to pull out. And it's that simple. This game is like for 5-year-olds, but that's why I got it. So hopefully someday I can play with my son.
Yeah,
and it's also actually kind of fun. But no, I would say that in that regard, I don't play my favorite game that often, or my favorite games that often, entirely because I don't own any games. And so I rely on going over to Roy's collection and being like, hey, what are we playing this week? And he'll be like, oh, well, this game. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. And since I haven't played everything, it's not like I'm going to be like, oh, man, we're not playing Zaya or Betrayal or this or that. We're not playing Dead of Winter because Rob didn't bring it. We're not doing this. But it's like I'm still learning new things and having new experiences and going, oh, that game was a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind playing that again or doing this or that. So from where I'm sitting, this is a perfectly okay experience. Like, gotcha. Everything's fine. But later, down the road, I might be like, this is my favorite. I'll buy it. And then I just have it and hug it and go to sleep with it and stuff like that.
Scales the Fish in chat is asking me how many games I actually own. I think as far as like games go, I have like around like 95 or something like that. If you add,
I'm getting close.
If you add expansions onto that, it goes ridiculous because there's some games that I have like 4 expansions from, and some games I have like 5 expansions for. So like the games I really like, I have a lot of stuff for. But yeah, as far as like completely separate games you can play, and I keep getting rid of like the ones I don't play that often because I'm not actually a collector. I try to play them all.
I will play them all.
One day.
I will eventually one day. I mean, I bought them to play them. It's just time. If I won the lottery tonight, I would open up a board game store or like a
event center.
right? And I would pay other people to run it for me, and I'd be my best customer, and I'd just sit there all day and play.
That's awesome.
I really would. In fact, my wife and I, we talked about that earlier today. Like, if we won the lottery, I'm doing this.
The funny thing is, me and my wife had the exact same conversation, and it ended about the same way.
Well, my wife was like, "Sure, if we win, you could do it. Sure, but I'm going shopping."
My wife is just like coffee shop board games.
Right?
So.
Would that not be so amazing?
Yeah.
I'm glad that my comment got swept under.
What'd you say?
I said, I had that conversation with myself because I'm alone.
Oh, self-loathing.
But side note, I'm up to 78 games. And with expansions, I would be over 100 as well.
But yeah, I'm trying to do this thing where I play every single game that I own, like this year. So starting the beginning of this year, I've played I think 48 different games of the games that I've owned. And I'm sorry, Matt and guys, if I've been putting you through playing a whole bunch of different games.
It's fine. It's been a lot of fun.
Because I know
I actually like that.
I know some people like to buckle down on a game and just play it over and over again. But with the stream and stuff, it works really good to play a variety of games so that people get to see a bunch of different things.
I mean, I think the other thing that's really good about it is it's not like, hey, what are we gonna do this week? Oh, that game again? Okay.
Yeah.
Even if it's a game like Betrayal, where it's it's gonna be random each time, I can imagine if you play that for 4 weeks in a row, you're like, all right, guys, how about we just not go in the house and instead do something over here in the land of whatever, just as long as it's not that house.
You do need a break from games,
Yeah, and that's
that does need to happen.
That's another thing with playing more of the thematic games. I'm all about the experience and things like that. So I think that would not be as exciting if I just played it over and over and over again. Having a variety of different things and then going back to it and getting an experience again and then playing other things, then going back, it makes it a lot different, where if the game might not be nearly as good if I just played it 18 times in a row and knew what every card did. But if I wait a while to play it, it's oh crap, I remember this card. That's crazy.
Yes.
So
the build up and the hype. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Matt,
else?
how many games do you have on Steam, Matt? Since we're talking about collections.
330.
Yeah.
Not including expansion.
Hey,
and that's a completely different game you can click on and just play, right?
Yeah.
Hey, do you have that Medieval Chivalry, Matt?
Yeah.
I did just get that because it was on my Steam store. It was for $4.
Yeah.
So I did pick that up, and I put Tabletop Simulator, back to our previous podcast. I did put that in my wish list, which I'll be getting soon. But I want to start playing some games with you online, since you have a lot of online games.
Yeah.
I need to try to figure out what my computer can play on Tabletop Simulator and actually make it happen, but
Yeah.
It might be the other thing too, is we might just need somebody else to host.
Awesome.
That could be a thing.
Okay, guys. Well, I guess that's been a podcast. Thanks
Don't
everybody.
say.
Thanks everybody who's in chat. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on Twitch. We stream the podcast every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yep.
This is good.
And we play board games on Friday nights, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And make sure to check out our YouTube and our Twitter and Instagram. The Twitch is www.twitch.tv/Epic Gaming Night. And then our YouTube channel is just Epic Gaming Night. You can search for that. And then also, if you want to check us out on Twitter and Instagram, that's at Epic Gaming Night. So make sure to hit us up.
iTunes.
Also, yes, review us on iTunes. The more reviews we get, the more easily people can find us on there. So it helps us get views. And if we get some reviews up there, we'll try to read them out on the podcast, which would be awesome.
And I'll go ahead and put this out there. If we get 50 reviews and I ever win the lottery one day, I may give everybody $1.
That was so much more underwhelming than I thought it could have been, and I'm a better person for it, honestly.
My brain was thinking, oh, they'll get free admission into my board game cafe like one time or something weird.
Nope.
No.
I thought it was
has
just
nothing
gonna
to
be
do-
like-
just straight money.
I thought it was
No,
just
just
gonna be
$1.
like, I'll buy you a small board game, and I was like, oh, that's nice. And it was just
Everybody
like, $1.
gets love letter.
Perfect.
Nope.
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for coming out. It was a ton of fun.
Bye.
See you guys later.
Goodbye, friends.
Yeah.
Peace.